Pete Townshend isn't just a musician, he's a force of nature. A virtuoso guitarist, sharp lyricist, and professional grenade thrower, Townshend's career spans 6 decades of setting stages alight and burning bridges with his fiery opinions. His influence on rock music is as undeniable as his knack for controversy. Over the years, Townshend has redefined the role of a rock star, combining artistry with audacity. Behind the onstage theatrics and iconic riffs lies a man grappling with personal struggles, relentless criticism, and the weight of his own legend. What happens when that fire scorches not only stages, but everyone around him? Today, we dive deep into the life of Pete Townshend, the rebel, the innovator, and the man who doesn't know the meaning of restraint. Few figures in rock have left a legacy as loud and unapologetic as Pete Townshend. As the driving force behind The Who, he didn't just play guitar, he redefined what it meant to be a rock star. With tracks like My Generation and Baba O'Reilly, Townshend created sonic manifestos that challenged norms and redefined ambition in music. These weren't just songs, they were declarations of independence, raw and filled with explosive energy. His windmill guitar strums and infamous stage-smashing antics turned concerts into theatrical experiences that no one had ever seen before. But his legacy isn't just about the music, it's about a man who speaks his mind, regardless of the consequences. While some hailed him as a genius, others saw him as a walking controversy, a man willing to burn bridges to stay true to his vision. Townshend's impact is not just measured by record sales or awards, but by the seismic shifts he caused in how rock music was perceived and performed. From the start, Pete Townshend was a rebel. Rock and roll wasn't about making friends, it was about ego, swagger, and rebellion. Townshend embodied this ethos with every riff and every incendiary comment. He once famously said, "I hope I die before I get old," a mantra that resonated with a generation. But his rebellion wasn't just against society, it was against the music industry, the norms of his time, and even his own peers. Townshend's early life shaped this rebellious streak. Growing up in post-war Britain, he was drawn to the raw energy of American blues and rock and roll. This wasn't just music to him, it was freedom, an escape from the constraints of a society recovering from war. When he picked up a guitar, he wasn't looking to blend in, he was looking to blow the doors off convention. The Who became his platform for defiance. With their loud, aggressive style, they shattered the notion that rock bands had to follow rules. Townshend's rebellious spirit wasn't just an act, it was his identity, forged in the fires of a world he was determined to challenge. Let's talk about Jimmy Page, a man who exists in Townshend's mind as both a genius and a rival. Townshend's relationship with Page is a cocktail of grudging respect and unfiltered disdain. While he's acknowledged Page's extraordinary talent, he's also accused Led Zeppelin of borrowing heavily from The Who's sound. "We sort of invented heavy metal with Live at Leeds," Townshend once claimed. "We were copied by so many bands, principally by Led Zeppelin. But there's more to this rivalry than just music." Led Zeppelin's meteoric success, outpacing even The Who in record sales and cultural impact, was a sting Townshend could never quite shake. Page's intricate guitar solos and Zeppelin's bombastic style stood in stark contrast to Townshend's raw, visceral approach. While Townshend valued authenticity and immediacy, he saw Zeppelin as overly polished, a band more focused on spectacle than substance. If Townshend's feelings toward Jimmy Page are complicated, his disdain for Ritchie Blackmore of Deep Purple is far more straightforward. Townshend has bluntly dismissed Blackmore's music and antics, saying, "I hated their music. It was very hard to live with being compared to these heavy metal bands." He's also mocked Blackmore's theatrical performances, quipping, "Bashing guitars on your head and smoking cigarettes through your teeth. Not my thing, mate." For Townshend, rock wasn't about cheap theatrics, it was about innovation and authenticity, two qualities he felt were sorely lacking in Blackmore's approach. Deep Purple's success, however, was another reminder of the changing landscape of rock, a landscape Townshend wasn't always comfortable navigating. Even the Beatles weren't safe from Townshend's sharp tongue. At the height of their powers in the mid-1960s, he dismissed their music as overrated, saying, "When you hear the backing tracks without their voices, they're flipping lousy." For Townshend, authenticity was everything, and the idea of a band being praised for production over musicianship was an affront. Yet, his relationship with the Beatles wasn't entirely antagonistic. He developed a genuine friendship with George Harrison, often speaking fondly of the late guitarist. Still, the Beatles' universal adoration was a reminder of what Townshend wasn't: commercially invincible and critically untouchable. Despite their differences, Townshend couldn't deny the Beatles' influence on the musical landscape he was part of. Clashing with with the next generation, Kurt Cobain. Fast forward to the 1990s, and Townshend found himself at odds with a new generation of rock stars, particularly Nirvana's Kurt Cobain. Cobain's cheeky journal entry, "I hope I die before I become Pete Townshend," did not sit well with Townshend, who had built a career on the very ethos of rebellion Cobain seemed to challenge. Reviewing Cobain's journals after his tragic passing, Townshend described them as the scribblings of a crazed and depressed drug addict, a harsh critique reflecting his discomfort with Cobain's unfiltered struggles. For Townshend, who had spent decades wrestling with the pressures of fame and his place in the rock pantheon, being seen as a symbol of middle-aged complacency was a bitter pill to swallow. Yet, Cobain's tragic end forced Townshend into a moment of introspection. Fame, rebellion, and artistry had always come with a cost, something Townshend knew intimately. In Cobain, he saw not just a rival, but a mirror of the turmoil that had once driven him. Their clash wasn't merely generational, it was a painful reminder of the cyclical nature of rock's highs and lows. For Townshend, who built his career on youthful rebellion, being seen as a symbol of middle-aged complacency was a bitter pill to swallow. Cobain's tragic end, however, forced Townshend to reflect on the pressures of fame and the toll it takes, a theme he had grappled with throughout his own career. And then there's Jimi Hendrix, perhaps the only guitarist who could overshadow Townshend. For Townshend, Hendrix was a phenomenon, a musician whose brilliance seemed almost otherworldly. Watching Hendrix perform was like witnessing a force of nature, something electrifying, yet humbling. While Townshend admired Hendrix's groundbreaking skill, he couldn't help but feel overshadowed during their shared performances, where Hendrix's virtuosity seemed effortless, almost untouchable. One particular regret haunted Townshend, the time he gave Hendrix advice on equipment. Years later he quipped, "Why did I give him that bloody tip?" It wasn't just a joke, it was a moment of vulnerability, a rare admission that even someone as confident and accomplished as Townshend could feel eclipsed. Hendrix's untouchable genius was both an inspiration and a source of frustration, a reminder of the artistic heights Townshend aspired to, but often felt just out of reach. To share a stage with Hendrix was to share it with a legend in the making, and Townshend knew it. While their styles and approaches differed, the shadow of Hendrix loomed large over Townshend's career. In Hendrix, he saw both the best of what music could achieve and the daunting challenge of standing alongside someone who seemed to redefine greatness with every note he played. Pete Townshend is a man of contradictions. He's a genius and a grudge holder, a visionary and a critic, a rebel who's never fully comfortable with his own legacy. In a world of carefully curated personas, Townshend's unapologetically messy approach to life and music makes him unforgettable. His riffs, his rage, and his relentless honesty have left a mark on rock history that no one else could replicate. He might not always be likable, but he's never boring, and in the end, isn't that what rock and roll is all about?